Good morning. Hope everybody is doing well. This message will be brief. I just wanted to. I was having a conversation with somebody a little while ago, and they brought up a cliche or a saying that's common among believers, or a lot of unbelievers too will say this if you get into some kind of conversation or quasi debate with them about sins. And that is sin and it can't be measured, right? I've heard that a lot in my life. And I want to parse this out and call it out and say that although God hates all sin, he does deal with sin differently. And so, in those terms, in that regard, sin can be measured, and it is measured. Um, I'll start with 1 John chapter 5:16, right? And that says, if you see any brother or sister commit a sin that does not lead to death, you should pray and God will give them life. I refer to those whose sin does not lead to death. There is a sin that leads to death. And I'm not saying that you should pray about that. All wrongdoing is sin, and there is sin that does not lead to death. Okay? So that's 1 John chapter 5:16 and 17. All right. And then on top of that, there's also sexual sin, right? Which pays a different dividend for your action, right? And there's a price to pay. There's different levels of discipline and correction. And, the Bible tells us that the sin that you commit in the flesh is a different kind of sin, right? Because you're sinning against the temple of the Holy Spirit, the temple of God, as it were. And, people often use this saying or cliche, sin is sin. If you have a conversation with someone and you correct them, not even correct them, just a general conversation, however the context, whatever context it is, and their defense, you can tell when somebody's encroached or living in sin to a degree that maybe you're not. And I'm not judging or anything. That was me for many years. I was totally involved in sexual immorality, alcohol, partying, you name it. So by any means, don't think I'm judging. I'm just talking from a perspective now where I'm not. Okay. And, but because I did it, they'll defend it by using this cliche. They'll say, well, sin is sin. It can't be measured. Somehow defending their sin, like saying that they minimize it by this saying, but they misuse the phrase, right? Because what God is actually saying with this is sin and it's all bad. That's what he's saying. Not that you can't measure it because it's all like grouped into this minimal category. No, it's saying the opposite. God is saying the opposite. We abuse this saying. God is actually saying with this sin is sin and it can't be measured because it's all extremely terrible. It's bad. That's what it means. And so you do yourself a disservice when you use this cliche to try to minimize your sin, right? Because sin is sin, and he does measure it out differently. There's different prices to pay. There's different consequences depending on the sin. 1 Corinthians 6:18, every sin, whatever a person commits is outside the body, but the sexual immoral person sins against his own body, right? So that reaps a different consequence, right? It's not like if you steal a candy bar from your mom's dresser drawer and you go out and have unprotected sex with 10 people. Well, the consequence, logic would even tell you the consequence of something like that is going to be different. Now, God hates it all the same, right? He does. But so I think that we have to start looking at this. If you haven't already, probably a lot of people have, because if you've learned from your mistakes, then you definitely have. You know what I'm saying? So you can't view sin the same. It's not the same. And it's in terms of his his feeling toward it, it makes sense that he does hate it all equally. That's true, right? So I just wanted to provide some food for thought, and then in Proverbs also, I think it's chapter 6. It talks about 7 like sins that God actually hates. Uh, you know, and so there's no punishment listed for those, but it tells you that it tells you that he has certain things that he just hates that human beings do. So sin is sin. It can't be measured. That's false. Sin is all sin. God hates it all. Yes, that's true. All right. So just some food for thought. Hopefully it helps somebody this morning. All right. Be blessed.